Hey, what's up, Vikings? My name is Mr. Benham. I'm a math teacher at Valencia, and I was given the opportunity to give a small little virtual workshop on what it means to eat healthier. And this is it. So I'm just going to go over some basics and then give some examples of how I've eaten both yesterday and today so far. And it's about, I don't know, 5 o'clock right now. So I haven't had dinner yet, so we won't see that. But effectively, I'm not an expert at this in any means. I just try to live a healthy lifestyle, and these are things that I've picked up along my journey of trying to attain that. So this is just kind of some tricks and hints that I've kind of picked up on. So I wanted to pass it along to y'all. All right. So here's basically the basics. I can't overstate the first bullet point enough. You want to drink plenty of water. Um, yeah, that's quite obvious, but we'll go into that in a second. We want to eat to match our activity and hunger level. It's a fancy way of saying don't overeat. Eat more frequently, but with less quantity. So maybe instead of 2 to 3 meals a day, try to eat more spread out meals, but less meals in size. And then center your meals around natural foods. All right, let's go into it. Water. Okay, so again, as I mentioned earlier, it can't be overstated. You want to start legitimately first thing you do every morning once you wake up with a tall glass of water, and stay consistent with your water consumption throughout the day. I'm sure science teachers can correct me on the ratio that we are of water, but I know we're around 70 to 75% water. So it makes sense that if we want to be healthy and active, we got to put in all that water to make up for when it leaves our body when we sweat in other ways. So water is super important. And I have a reference down here from helpguide.org. It helps flush out our system. It gets rid of toxins and bad things in our body. And it also helps curb our hunger and reduce low energy and tiredness. Again, big thing here that I think is often overlooked, drinking plenty of water. Okay, well, it's supposed to say, here we go. Sorry about that. There's a lag in my presentation. But next one up is eat to match your activity level and hunger level. So I've been guilty of this many times in my life where I just eat because I'm bored. And that's never a good thing. Even if you're eating vegetables and fruit, you don't really just want to eat when you're not hungry. So just really eat when you're active and when you're hungry. And eat more when you're active, eat less when you're not. So for example, yesterday I took a rest day from working out. So in the following examples that you'll see for my meals yesterday, they're not really super big and there's not a lot of them because I didn't need as much caloric intake, calories going into my body because I wasn't as active yesterday as I was on days that I work out like today. So you want to really listen to your body and only eat when you're hungry and really fill your body with what you need because like any machine or anything that's running, if you give it good fuel and the right amount of fuel, it will run more efficiently. All right. Eat to match your activity and hunger level. So again, my slides are kind of freaking out here, so my heading's a little off. There you go. Eat more frequently with less quantity. Sorry for the lag. So you don't need to chow down until you're bursting at the seams. Again, this is just me telling you what I've experienced. I used to eat a lot of sushi when I was younger, and I would go to all-you-can-eat sushi around here in the valley, and I would eat until literally I was so full I got sick, and you never want to do that. So kind of using my helpguide.org here as another reference, you want to eat breakfast and then eat smaller meals throughout the day. Avoid eating late at night. And now the obvious reason for that is because when we eat a bigger meal in the morning or for lunch, we have more time for our body to burn it off. Whereas when we go into a state of rest, a state of stasis, our body isn't burning off. It's not trying to account for all this movement and thought, and therefore when we're sleeping we don't burn off as much calories. So when you eat really late at night, especially when you couple it with the fact that when I eat late at night I usually eat junk food, it makes it much more prone to turning into fat and turning into something that's not really going to fuel our body efficiently. So if we eat bigger meals earlier in the day, but also really not even necessarily on big, but eat more frequently, it'll be better for our body in the long run. And the last one, super important here. Again, my iPad that's controlling this is kind of being ridiculous. So let me try to exit out and go back to it. But we want to center our meals around natural foods. So a little about me, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. So that's just kind of how I try to live my life anyways, around natural foods. But that being said, natural could also be meat-based as well. So this isn't an advertisement for being vegetarian. But long story short, you want to eat foods that aren't processed, that aren't engineered. A while ago, I read a book by an author named Michael Pollan, and he does a very good job in his book. It's called In Defense of Food, but I'm going to paraphrase what a lot of that food's about. And you should buy groceries that are on the perimeter or around the outside of the market. And if you think about a standard market, the outside typically is on the outside is typically where the meat, the cheese, the dairy, the vegetables and produce are, and then everything inside those aisles is typically canned and boxed stuff, which I'm not saying you shouldn't eat, but it's typically processed and refined. It is manipulated by humans in factories, and then therefore it's not as natural. And it kind of follows suit. Like the difference between an ear of corn and a can of corn is that a can of corn has a lot of preservatives, a lot of salt, a lot of things that humans have added in to keep it fresh for longer. And our bodies don't metabolize or break that down. So you kind of go into a market with the idea of trying to get stuff that is perishable, so lasts less time, but is more natural. Your body will naturally be able to digest it better. So his major point in this book, basically, if I was just kind of summarize the main talking points of this book, it's just to eat food. And that sounds ridiculous because we all eat food, but I know I have broken it many times and I still break it sometimes, like chips. I love chips, but that stuff is not really food. It was food once, then they mixed it all together and refined it and processed it into these crazy little things that taste good, but actually aren't good for our body to break down. Being that we're natural organisms, our bodies are meant to digest and intake natural things. When we take refined and processed food and engineered food, it's not going to digest as well. So he mentions that you should eat mostly plants, and I mentioned earlier that I'm a vegetarian, so that's kind of how I roll anyways, as you'll see in the examples of what I eat. But meat doesn't need to be, even if you love meat, and I totally get it. I grew up in a household that really focused their meals around meat. But the mistake that we made as a family when I was younger was that majority of the plate was meat. Now, meat can be really good for you. It has very good essential fats and a lot of protein, obviously, and it helps muscle building and a lot of calories in it. But if you center your food, your intake around meat, or specifically around processed food, like not even fresh meat, say fast food, then you're going to be setting yourself up for some sluggish times and some in your body's insulin, is going to spike, and you're going to get more sugar in your system, and it's just your body's going to be out of whack. It's not going to know how to act. So if you eat mostly plants, your body is going to feel healthier, it's going to feel clean, and you're going to actually run more efficiently. And that's kind of why I transitioned, by the way, to being a vegetarian. Is through trial and error, I realized amongst the other positives of not eating meat, say conservation and respect for animals, I also just feel generally a lot better, cleaner, and I have a lot more energy since I've made that transition. So effectively, to kind of double down on Mr. Pollan's idea of eating mostly plants, CDC, Center of Disease Control, basically simply gives this idea of eating the rainbow, meaning eating a lot of different colors, not just red or yellow. Got to get greens in there as well. Cool. So there's my sources real quick. But here's some examples of how I ate yesterday on Wednesday. I'm recording this today on Thursday, so I'm going to give you what I ate yesterday and what I ate today. Not fully comprehensive, but I feel like the insight and the instruction I tried giving you is only as good as the examples you get. I'm sure you've seen that in your classes. It doesn't make sense when someone tells you to do something and they don't give you a reason why or an example how to do it. So yesterday morning, yesterday was a rest day, so you'll see kind of how I ate here. I didn't work out, but yesterday's breakfast, I had an English muffin with 2 eggs, soy riso, kale, and green onions. What you see on the left over there is the cooking process on the skillet, and on the right is the plate that I ate there with a little coffee in the background. Sweet. So here's my post-breakfast snack. According to, let me try to exit out again. There we go. Okay. Post-breakfast snack. Sorry about that. Can't go back. One of the pitfalls of the iPad here. All right, post-breakfast snack. So a while after breakfast, I had some coconut water with apple cider vinegar. Like life hack number 1, apple cider vinegar. It stinks to drink. You get used to it eventually, but it is super good for you, okay? Like I can't emphasize that enough. If you can get yourself down with maybe orange juice or apple cider vinegar, a little mix in it, like an ounce of it, then that's actually gonna be really good for cleansing your body, and it helps control urges. It helps kickstart your metabolism, helps burn calories if you're trying to maintain and control those urges. But I had coconut water, super hydrating with apple cider vinegar, put a little ginger in there too, and I had an apple, which as you see is not pictured. Cool. Wednesday for lunch, I had a little thing I like to call rice wah. It's rice and quinoa mixture. And I topped that plate with beets, not everyone's favorite, but if you simmer them up, they cook down real nice and they're really good. Kale, parsley, cremini mushrooms, red onions, raw pumpkin seeds, pecans, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Okay, that's what I had yesterday. I also put a little honey on the beets as I was cooking them too. So you can see on the left, that's me cooking it in a rice cooker, and on the right is all the natural ingredients other than the rice and quinoa. And boom, there's it all cut up, and there is what it looks like on the right. I've also put a little sriracha sauce on the top of it for a little extra spice, because I like that. All right, lunch is done. Now it's snack time. I was teaching and doing a lot of work yesterday, so I threw in a little Perfect Bar. I love those things. It's kind of like sugary too, so kind of a little sweet treat. I had a lot of work to do yesterday, as I just mentioned, so I actually got lucky. Let's see, there you go. Sorry for the lag. One of my family members made a stuffed eggplant. I got off cooking this one. Usually I get the joy of cooking, but that's kind of what I made last night. Again, notice a lot of good greens, a lot of good colors in there, and all the ingredients that you see on the left are all natural things and very much plant-based. All right, today, got up nice and early before my math classes. Shout out to my math students, and I did a workout. But before the workout, I had a little bowl of granola with pecans, banana, and almond milk. Obviously, you can see the coffee there too. And then right after the workout, you can see at the bottom of the screen, breakfast number 2. Post-workout, I had a protein shake with banana, raw coconut, and almond butter. Don't have that pictured, but it was delicious. Then I went and taught my classes. After my classes were done, I had lunch. And of course, I accidentally skipped over that. And today's lunch was quinoa based again. I gotta love quinoa, plus it's what I have at my house right now. So I had quinoa plate with tempeh, which is like a soybean and millet and barley based situation. It's kind of what almost looks like chicken on there, and but it's fully natural and plant-based. I had kale, cilantro, and avocado thrown in the mix as well. All right, for a snack, I had a little French bread with balsamic vinegar and olive oil, and me and my fiance shared half an apple. Cool, so you notice like it's not necessarily, my meals aren't like humongous, but they're fully satisfying, and I'm eating often enough that I don't have to have an entire plate or 2 whole plates of food at one time. Not that I'm saying I don't do that at all times, sometimes, but try to avoid the heavy meals. And yeah, that's pretty much where we end off for today, because I haven't made dinner yet. Kind of contemplating what I'm going to make, but effectively, the main things that you want to focus on if you're trying to eat healthier during this time of quarantine is really ask your parents to try to buy natural foods. You can still eat sweets and treats, and I eat that stuff too, and I'm not gonna lie, I have a little bit of a sweet tooth, but try to limit it and try not to make your meals centered around heavy foods, unnatural foods, and refined foods. And I think you'll find that if you make this step, and even if you go more plant-based, you can find a lot of good recipes online, specifically on Instagram. There's a lot of good people to follow. I could give you some of those handles if we do another one of these sessions. But you can find a lot of awesome recipes, and it's really just about seasoning and putting salt and pepper and putting hot sauce on it, and you can make really even what seems to be disgusting vegetables into really delicious meals. And that's kind of how I like to live my life. So hopefully this is useful to you, not just me rambling. If it is just me rambling, maybe someday you'll make the change and find some good healthy ways to eat. And I appreciate y'all's time, and maybe I'll look forward to doing a couple more of these for y'all. Have a great day, Vikings.